Here's the question we're aiming to answer in this video. Is Figma a value stock or a bull trap looking to lure retail investors? To address this question, we're doing a full 360-degree deep dive into everything happening on the Figma stock, including supply and demand, smart money flow, technical analysis, financials, recent earnings, and if we have time, what the news has to say about the stock. We are here to provide you with objective facts. What this is not is financial advice, so be sure to consult with a certified fiduciary on all of your investments. Friends, staring at a stock chart alone rarely tells the full story because that's how smart money fake out retail investors. Did you know the setups they create are called feeding the chickens? That's us, the retail investors. If you only rely on the chart patterns and technical indicators, most likely you're getting trapped in your trades because the timing is not correct. Hi, my name is Yaz, and I've been trading for nearly 2 decades. I founded bottomfinders.com with the goal of teaching retail investors how to trade like institutional investors because that's who makes the money. We are a group of engineers that developed a pretty awesome app, which is available to you via link below, and we want to share it with you. Stick around for the entire video because by the end, you will understand what institutional investors are doing on the Figma trade and the entry timing that makes the most sense. And if you find value in this video, we kindly ask you to support our young channel by clicking the like and subscribe. All right, so our analysis starts over at bottomfinders.com supply and demand charts. The first thing we want to take note of is the float share or the float size, which is 233 million shares. And the more important metric right now is the short interest, which is sitting at 17.5%. And that's relatively high for any stock. Typically, 3 to 5 is a pretty common average, but we'll get back to that and see what that is all about. Now, coming down to look at the supply and demand charts itself, the green line is the demand oscillator, and it typically gyrates between 40 and 60. And anytime it gets to one extreme, it wants to turn back down. So currently, it is sitting at 42. So 42 is relatively low for any stock. Now, we called this stock back on May 5th, where it was relatively low. It was we'll once we put the institutional investors on here, we can pinpoint exactly where we had called it. But currently, the institutional investors are sitting at 47. So typically, we want them to be up at the top. We want the demand to be low. And when we put the retail investors onto the chart, we want the retail investors to be low as well, along with the demand. What that tells us is that the store is ready to be opened by the institutional investors who begin to push the price up and sell into a distribution or some sort of a consolidation up at the top. With the institutional investors owning only 47% on the metric scale, which is basically saying that they don't really have full control of the supply pool that is out there. Um, you don't get that much push upwards when they go to do a markup period. Not like what we saw here down to here. When we had called it, it was around the May 5th. So it was in alignment to about right here. The demand was in low 40s. The institutional investors were above 90 and the retail investors were close to the zero mark. And as a result of that, we saw the stock go from 19 to about 27, which was approximately 3 or 4 weeks later. But that was a call that we did make, and it was pretty successful. And this is where they sold into it, and it was this ramp up here that was the trend. And when we get to the technicals, we'll show that in a little bit more detail. Now, coming down to look at the volume balance, where it is essentially the net balance of the volume between retail investors and institutional investors. Anything below the zero line goes to the institutional investors. Anything above goes to the retail investors. So as of recent, what we see here is that institutional investors have been getting the lion's share of the volume. And this is what we have to understand because they're the ones that are going to push the price up and create a market up top where retail investors come in and they sell into it. Our goal is to ride that up with them, not wait for it to get up there because then it's too late. So we do have an indication that they have some control of the inventory that's out there. Let's go take a look at the institutional makeup of Figma itself and see what that looks like in terms of accumulation on the institutions. Now, this institutions here includes everyone, right? So this is from funds to hedge funds to portfolios to institutional traders and market makers. What we do see is approximately an increase of about 60 million shares, which is 22%. And since they have gone public last year, we see that their accumulation has been doing really well in terms of institutional investors. Here is basically nothing, and then we jump up to approximately 192 million, and then we went up to 268. And as of recent, we're sitting at 328 million in institutional shares. Now, the reason that that gets to be, let's see here, a little bit higher than the float itself, or because they are accounting for the outstanding shares, there's potential that there are different class of shares that they are purchasing, and they of course have to do filings on those. But let's go down and take a look at what the calls to put ratio is. And as of March, now these numbers are a little bit outdated, but you can do your a little bit of research to find out what the latest numbers on the call to put ratio, or put the call ratio rather. We do see that there is approximately 10.5 million shares in calls against the 7.6 million shares in puts. So you could almost say that's what would that come out to be? Maybe a 3 to 2, or yeah, about 3 to 2 ratio. Whereas the calls are ahead. So we're definitely leaning on the call side from the institutional investors. Coming down to see the actual institutional investors, what we do see here is quickly that Jay Connick trimmed down their position approximately 12 million shares, or rather, trimmed down their position approximately 15 million shares, and Field Dillon trimmed down their position down to 12 million shares. Now, coming down, the actual players themselves, it gets a little bit interesting. We see this Greylock. They got $1.2 billion in this stock. We've got the Index Venture Associates have $1.2 billion in this stock. So there's some big money in this stock. You got SCUS has got $565 million. Now, I typically like to see or look for the Vanguards, BlackRocks, and State Streets, and I do see Vanguard, but they're down here. They got about 400 million into it. Now that's not a bad investment, but usually you would see Vanguard up at the top, or even BlackRock or the others. But here we only have really Vanguard. Now I have a theory as to why this is, but before we get into that, I see Goldman Sachs is potentially playing their market maker role, and I see Citadel over here as well. I see Susquehanna. Let's scroll up. So Susquehanna has a call position of approximately 2.7 million shares in calls to Susquehanna's put, to 1.8 million shares in puts. So Susquehanna appears to be leaning towards the call side. Citadel seems to be doing the same thing. Citadel has 2.4 million shares in calls, and coming down, we see that they have 2.1 million shares in puts. So they got the market makers in there, and they have really what I'm seeing almost like private investors, maybe even VCs. I This isn't normal to see Greylock up at the top, FMR, Capital, Price Waterhouse, Two Sigma. So typically you see the big investment firms like Vanguard. But now here's my theory on that. My theory on that is AI. Figma is in what we would say in the creative design space. Uh, AI has done a lot to create questions around the creative design space and what AI is helping the designers do. Much like what AI has done with, say, software engineering and quality control, it seems to be doing the same thing with creative design, and where someone can just go in, type up a prompt, ask it to create an image for you or a mock-up or something along those lines, and out comes this image. And that takes a lot of shortcuts and gets you to the end result. Now it may not be perfect, and you could decide on the acceptability of that, but nonetheless, AI has put a damper on the creative design industry. You could see a similar trend in what it's doing with the Adobe stock, which thrives in that space, and you can see the same effect. So what that may have happened is they may have pushed Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, and those upper class, or the elite funds to scale back from these particular industries, because it is a lot more riskier now with AI until they figure out how to do their own AI implementation. Now, let's go on to talk about the technicals. So, scaling out or zooming out real quick, we see that this is when they came on, somewheres in the middle of last year, 2025. They started somewhere around the 75 range. In typical fashion, they popped up to somewhere around the 150 and then came back down in a matter of a couple of days. And then from then on, it really has just been trending down. And what seems to be settled in a price zone that this stock is very comfortable in, and that is between 16 and 27. So the two price zones that I target in this technical analysis, 16 to 27 and 27 to 39. So, with that, let's focus on those. We're currently sitting right in the middle of that price zone. When we had called it, it was somewhere around over here. It was around the May 5th timeline, and it was approximately at 19. It had gone up. Somewhere around 25, came back down and gone back up to the 27 range, and then it came back down and sold off again. This is really the ebb and flow of market makers and what they make the market do to see if it could even get up into this upper range. There is a downward trend here that was serving initially as a support over here that eventually became a resistance. So this line right here is now serving as a resistance along with this 1665 range or 1665 line. So we do have a little bit of a wedge here that we may potentially be able to play off of and know how we can see where the price goes from here. We have the volume spiking down here. This is indicative of a accumulation. So there's definitely accumulation happening here, and there is a lot of buying. Some selling, but there's a lot of buying, and that's perhaps that 20% of accumulation that we saw over on Fintel that showed us an increase of the institutional investors. So the stock seems to want to go up. Is using this as the resistance, the upper part of the price zone. But now it's at a point where it's about to break a long-term trend. This trend is really in place since the beginning almost of this stock. So does it break this trend? This is like a really big question here, and that is really the play. Aside from the accumulation, you also have the what I would call the divergence or convergence, rather, where the MACD is moving up and the price action is moving down. And when that happens, typically the price wants to correct to the MACD and adjust to that gravity rather than to the price action. And it seems to be doing that. And also, the MACD has crossed over into the positive or the bullish territory, being over the zero line. Now, the play on this is this. Do we cross over this line? That is a very critical question. If we cross over this line and close a couple of ticks, that means we broke a very big trend. This is a trend that was established almost from the very beginning. Then at that point, we can expect the stock to go back up to 27. Right now, it's sitting at 21.95, so that's an increase of $5. If it doesn't break this downward trend, okay, which really puts us at really about 21, 22, right? So that's where we're at. If it doesn't get up there, let's just say if it doesn't hit 23, then at that point it's going to go back down to 16 or 17 range, of which then that becomes a great entry. So the two entries that I see here, the two potential entries, now you also have to do your own homework and make sure that you're comfortable with this. But if we break this downward trend, you have an entry over here, okay? And then you put your stop below the line. All right. Give it a couple of ticks to close, and then you should be comfortable that it's going to stay here. If it gets down to this line, watch it bounce off of this line first and know that this line is supporting it. Then go ahead and get in here and then close out or do a stop over here. Now, let's talk about the short interest that is in this stock. There is a very high short interest, and I think it was to the tune of 17.5%. Now, market makers play this in their favor, and this is where they create that short squeeze that you all know about. Now, when it gets up to this line, especially here, here, and here, what happens is that shorts come in and they short the position here. They know the line, they know where the resistance is, and they know the line, and they will come in and do their short position, and they will put their stop right here. They'll put their stop over here. Now, their stops are buy orders. So if you could imagine the market makers pushing the price up, this is very easy to do. This is, they tanked it here, they gapped it here. I mean, they can do whatever they want. They have millions of dollars. They can go in and hit all the bids and watch it fly up. I mean, that's just really the bottom line. So, and what happens here is, or rather, hit the asks, not the bids. So they can come in, hit all the asks, watch it fly up, and off to the moon that we go. Uh, Once it comes over here into this space or this space or this space, because that's where the stops are, these are buy orders, and then they start to click in, and it's just buy order after buy order after buy order, and this is where you get a long candle like this. So if they want to do that, then they can easily do that. What they may be doing is they may be building enough momentum to create a bunch of orders up here so that when they go up here, they could take the price even higher and higher and higher. Now, with the supply and demand chart here, we saw that they're not fully, their tank is not completely full. We need them to have absolute control of the supply pool by owning as much of it as they can. Right now, they don't. So they may be looking to leverage this kind of a strategy to push the price up. Now, where will it go? We've got the 200-day moving average over here. So there's one area that it could get to, and that is potentially in the $30 range. You've got another stop sitting at around the $27 range. And I think at a minimum probably gets to about the 27. That's been up there a couple of times. And if they are really serious about getting it up out of there, then it could go up to the $39 range. So the play here is to wait to see if it crosses over this line, it closes, and you can get in, put your stop here, or come down. If it doesn't, it's going to come down to the $16 line. This is where you get in, put your stop here, and you let it ride. So far, we've covered supply and demand, institutional ownership, and technical analysis for this stock. To continue with this stock's financials, earnings, AI, and closing remarks, click this box on your screen for part two, and we'll see you there shortly.